Hyperspatial drones had first discovered the Hercules Corona-Borealis Great Wall eons ago, but only humanity possessed the hubris to exploit its temporal anomalies. The wall became a curiosity, then an obsession. Its properties defied physics, accelerating time on one side while hindering its passage on the other. After years of failed experiments, the Temporal Institute finally produced mechanisms to traverse the wall's divide. The possibilities were profound. Humanity now had the means to alter history through retrocausality, skip ahead into potential futures, prolong their lifespans. But manipulation of the temporal flow had unforeseen effects. Subjects who crossed the wall returned changed, their psyches and physiologies subtly warped. Prolonged exposure induced megalomania, erosion of empathy, a disregard for causal consequences. The Temporal Institute conditioned candidates to resist these effects and wield chronal abilities responsibly. It wasn't enough. Powerful individuals soon dominated the technology, driven by profit and influence. They imposed their will across centuries, reshaping events through temporal intervention squads. Rival factions arose, plunging humanity into a shadow war across the temporal landscape. With no accountability across vast timescales, ethics decayed. Dissent was preemptively erased through retroactive elimination. The present became merely an engineered stepping stone to future dominance. A rebel cell called Out of Time arose, attempting to preserve causality, but their chances looked bleak against the forces of temporal exploitation. What principles could withstand technologies that rendered morality obsolete? Humanity teetered on the edge of chronological tyranny. The battle for their soul would be waged across the centuries. Out of Time's rebels knew ordinary resistance was futile against those who could undo the past and control the future. Their only hope was to destroy the technology completely, so they infiltrated Installation 1191, where the Institute's cronies retro-engineered history to solidify power. High above the wall's schism, they breached its defenses by masquerading as compliant subjects. Once inside, the team unleashed a chronal bomb that would sow unstable anomalies across the temporal landscape. History would become unmalleable, vulnerable to cascading chronodimensional ruptures. But when the rebels reached the central chamber housing the distortion engines, they discovered a child wired into the machinery, the latest sin against nature by the Institute. His innocent mind amplified the technology's influence across timelines. The rebels faced an impossible choice: preserve causality and let the child die, or abort their plan and leave the Institute's tyranny intact. In that moment, their leader Kalia realized how readily the wall's technologies subverted basic human decency. She gave the order to retreat. Some argued that sacrificing one child was worth restoring free will. But Kalia understood that destroying the technology would not undo its corrupting effects on the human spirit. Only a renewed moral code could accomplish that. Out of Time needed to lead by example. They would challenge the Institute through courage and principle, rather than sacrificing their ethics for victory. Even if they failed, their choices would send ripples of redemption through history. Every small act of conscience, magnified across time, could erode the Institute's fallacies about human nature. And someday, their cumulative acts of virtue might redeem humanity in the eyes of the cosmos and themselves. The rebels' stand against chronoppression had only begun. The wall's schism was reflected in humanity itself, both light and darkness, fragile order and roiling chaos. Out of Time would fight to shift the balance,